Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's first law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George,
and Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
Continuing our pattern of interviewing special guests, we have the return of the Serpent of Talins. Ladies and gentlemen,
Hi.
Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me back, guys.
Yay!
Of course. You were our best rated episode last time, right?
Oh, okay. Love that. I hope I can live up to the hype.
Yeah, no pressure. If you don't succeed this time, we'll never have you back on.
All right, fair enough.
You can't skate by on beginner's luck.
I hope not. I have a lot of that. We'll break the streak.
So, tell us a little bit more. Did you finish? You finished the Great Leveler, the standalone trilogy, right?
I'm all caught up. It was honestly after our last episode, I was so I wanted to get back into it so badly because I had such a good time. And so immediately after we were done, I read The Heroes and then I read Red Country, and then I decided I needed to reread everything up to that point. So I read the whole first trilogy again and Best Served Cold, and then did Age of Madness. And I did all of that in the span of about 6 weeks. So it was, and Sharp Ends, by the way. So it was 10 books, 6 weeks. It was a binge, but had the best time. So it was great.
A worthy binge.
Pacey made it easy.
Very true. He does make it easy. Very true.
Mm-hmm.
How would you rank the trilogies? Original, standalones, and Age of Madness?
Standalones, original, Age of Madness.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
I mean, the standalones were so good. It's honestly 1 and 2 are tight. That's. Monza just takes it over the edge. Of course, you guys know I love her. And I thought The Heroes, funny enough, that ended up being my favorite book because that was the one that I got stuck on. Because our last episode, I'd only read the first. I think it was Before the Battle. And then I put the book down for 9 months and didn't continue reading. And then once I really got into it and read the whole thing, it ended up being my absolute favorite. So I think the standalones get the edge for that reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's understandable.
Okay. Do you guys like that rating or what?
It's an acceptable rating. No, actually,
that's a no.
No, actually, I don't know. I think mine are almost the same because I tend to. It's difficult, right? Because we were just talking about this with Tamil Bohr last time. Whenever you're reading each book, it's like, oh, this is the best book in the series, and then you go to the next one, you're like, oh, this is the best books in the series every single time. So it's really hard to pick. But I do notice that anytime I get to the standalones, I'm always completely drawn in, 100% the entire time.
I think it's something to do with the fact that each standalone has different characters, whereas in the trilogies you keep following the same. So it's a bit more fresh, isn't it?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think you also get to dive a lot deeper into the characters in those trilogies because you have 3 books to get to know them. And obviously, it's hard to compete with Logan and Glocta and Shazam, the OG crew. But I feel like the standalones, he did so much in a shorter space of time. And I feel like we covered more ground in those books. I thought what he did in The Heroes was honestly just really special. And it's one of the best books I've ever read. And it's hard to put it below anything, even the first, as much as I love the first trilogy, even with Age of Madness being at the bottom of that group, Age of Madness is still better than a lot of books out there. So everything was so enjoyable. And like I said, that 1 and 2 ranking are really, really tight. But I loved The Heroes. I thought it was just so cool what he did there. So
what did you think of his anthology style chapters where, the POV jumps around?
Oh, I think it's awesome.
Oh, the little
yeah, I remember the first time when I was first reading Casualties, I didn't really pick up on what was happening because I'd been speed reading, right? So I've been forcing as much first blood down my throats as I could get. And so as I was going through this chapter, I think I was on the 3rd POV before I realized wait, what is going on here? So I had to restart the chapter and really actually listen. And then I realized what was happening. And I was like, oh my God, I think I messaged you guys in the group chat. And it was guys, this is so cool. And you're like, yeah, it's a thing. Like, we're all aware of it. And it started to, I would look ahead at the audio chapters. I'd look at the length of the chapter, and I could tell when it was going to be a Little People chapter based on the length, because they're usually like an hour 15. And I'd be like, yes, another one. So yeah, I thought that was really cool and very original.
Do you think that over time, even with the Age of Madness, even though you obviously don't like it more, the characters, like last time we talked about how, yeah, Monza's really awesome, and Pharaoh and Artie are good too, but like overall, I mean, let's be honest, his female characters are pretty weak in the beginning.
Yeah.
Comparatively.
Yeah.
Let's not forget when Stephanie called Pharaoh a dog. Let's not forget.
But no, oh my God. Okay, all right. For everyone listening, I felt really bad when I got off the episode. I was like, they brought me on to talk about the women characters and do a women empowerment episode. And the first thing I did was compare Pharaoh to a caged animal. And I literally called Jeff. I was like, you can't publish this. It's horrible. But for anybody who did catch that, I realized my mistake. I am very upset about it. I've been very upset about it for a few months, so I'm going to try not to do that again this time around. But to your point, yes, the women characters in Age of Madness were very well done compared to the first trilogy. And we'll have a lot to talk about that, I'm sure. But definitely, it felt like Zhao realized what he did in the first trilogy and really worked to rectify it. And I liked how that turned out.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate there with what his statements have been and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Harrison, did you want to continue? I think you had a second part. It seemed like to that question, right?
Yeah, the hot spot issue, which is people feel the way they do about Monza. Which we talked about a lot last time, so we won't go into that again. There's two more characters that people feel that way, although one of them has been slowly maybe since the Age of Madness, and her character Finnery has become less despised. But Savine seems to, despite everyone liking her character in Age of Madness, everybody seemed to like slowly dropped off and started not liking her anymore. And I think it's a mixture of her going against Orso, but I'm also not exactly sure why people don't like the way she is, because I mean, she actually becomes a better person by the end.
Well,
I mean,
it's
overall,
debatable.
compared to where she was.
I think there's an argument to be made either way. Now, when you talk about people not liking Savine over time, are you talking about over the course of the 3 books, or over the course of time as the years have gone on, people seem to like her less?
I would say both. I know when Age of Madness came out, when the very first Little Hatred came out, everyone was like, "Oh, I like Savine." But when The Trouble with Peace came out, suddenly people were like, "Oh, Savine was really interesting last time. Now she's not," and that seems to have stuck. Despite, I felt like her character did a lot inside of Wisdom of Crowds.
I feel like there's so much to unwrap here, because Savine is a character that I love in spite of myself. She'll never be Monza. Like, she'll never be at that level. Sorry. But I really did enjoy reading about her, because I think I'm just drawn to characters like her. And even as I was reading, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like that. I couldn't help but love her. And I remember thinking to myself, if I ever met this woman in real life, I would stay as far away from her as I possibly could. Like, she's objectively horrible, but there's something about her that, sort of pulls you in and keeps you coming back. The challenge that I had, and the reason why I say Savine becomes a worse person as the series goes on, is because after the events of, and in the middle of the Little Hatred, where she's running for her life, and she's taken in and like having to sort of live this life that's so different from her real one, she goes back and she suddenly realizes that her actions are wrong, and that the things she's doing aren't okay, and that she treats people badly and she takes advantage of them, and she doesn't change anyway. And that's really what got me, is like, she thinks to herself, I should change. I'm going to change. I'm going to do these things and I'm going to be better, and then doesn't. And so it's one thing to be evil and be ignorant about it. It's another to be aware of what you're doing and do it anyway. And so I can see why people would sort of start to separate themselves from Savine. If that is in fact their reason for doing so, I can definitely see that, because I think we all really wanted Savine to go through that and come through it actually being a better person. Like she, she's out there like, what was it like the slave queen or something? Like, what was her moniker?
Oh,
It was the something of the slums.
So yeah, darling of the slums, right?
Darling, yeah.
And she's really only taking care of them because she wants to put on this image and this perception, not actually because she cares, when she's literally lived with them and seen what they go through and dealt with that. So to me, that's kind of unforgivable.
Does it seem like, though, because in my mind, she basically has to cover up more because of her position. However, because of who she is. But at the same time, she doesn't really do anything different in terms of like Glokta, right? Glokta knows what he is. Glokta does continue to do bad things. Mm-hmm. And you could say, well, he's a bit nice to the ladies. Well, Savine was a bit nicer to poor people, the people who saved her.
She was a little, yeah.
And she, at the end, she does keep Leo in check, not because of purely her own pride or just her children, but because she knows it's literally going to be better for everyone. So in my mind, she does, although she doesn't change on like an individual level, she does have a more altruistic point of view and is not as selfish as she was before. And while she's not a good person by any means at all, I feel like she actually made it further than Glokta, who basically just didn't want to be beat whenever
that
it came
is
down.
True. Yeah. And that's a good point. And so I'm like, okay, there is an argument both sides. I guess I wanted to see more of like a reckoning for herself, and didn't really feel like I got that. But I do agree with you that like she did seem to genuinely try to want to make some of those changes. I just don't know that I agreed with her reasons for wanting to make those changes. If that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, it does.
But I still, again, adore her. I think she's an awesome character. And one of the things that I actually noticed as I was preparing to read Age of Madness, because I knew who like the major players were, I just didn't know anything about them. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't see anyone talking about Savine. She seems the most interesting on the surface, to me at least. But I never really see posts with her name. I never really see her coming up in conversation about Age of Madness. And so I kind of wondered why that was. And now having read it, honestly, I'd still like, we're sitting here talking about it. I still like her. I still wish she would be brought up in the fandom a little bit more. I think we tend to get a little more distracted by that other asshole, Leo Dan Brock, who can go fuck himself. One resounding fuck Leo for the podcast, and we'll probably have a few more along the way. But I do wish that she was talked about a little bit more, because there's a lot to unpack there.
You just answered my last questions. I was basically just going to say, is Savine sort of justified by the end of her story? Like,
well, by the
like
end, a lot changes by the end, because now she's got kids. That I will say, I thought Savine as a mother was well done. I was worried that she would have the baby, or babies in this case, and still think of herself first, and she didn't, which I appreciated.
Okay. What did you think of Shy? A lot of people don't talk about Shy.
I know, and it's funny, as we were talking about the Great Leveler, I didn't even mention Red Country. I really enjoyed Red Country while I was reading it. And I don't really have any desire to go back to it. Shy, I loved Shy while I was reading. I was like, this girl is awesome. I think Shy probably has one of the best hearts of any of the main characters that we get in all of the First Law. Like, she actually is, I think, a good person who's been through a lot of tough things and has hardened herself. But she struck me, at least, as a good person. And I almost wonder if in a series like this, where we're looking at bad people doing good things and loving the complexity of sort of, comparing those two, and loving someone who's bad in spite of themselves, that Shy doesn't almost fade into the background a little bit. Like, her goodness also makes her less interesting, which is unfortunate because there's nothing about Shy really that I can sit here and say I disliked. But I also don't think of her very often. So
I mean, that's exactly my thoughts. I mean,
really, yeah, okay.
I think that she is somebody who, like you said, gets faded off because she is a better person. But I think the entire way Red Country functions, people, it's like their favorite one out of all of them. But I don't know how much of that is contributed to Logan. You take Logan out of the picture, it's probably the most it's the happiest ending. The heroes save the day. The good people get to, be good and not get punished for it.
It's definitely the least grim and dark sort of book, isn't it?
You also get a lot of endings for prolific characters. I mean, Casca and Carlot, and you sort of see where their journeys end. And I don't know. I finished Red Country almost with a feeling of closure.
Yeah.
Which we didn't get as much in some of the other books. So yeah, it was good. It's, as Jeff knows very well about me, I am not a fan of Westerns, and so I really wasn't expecting to enjoy that book as much as I did, but I ended up really liking it. The fight between Lamb and Glama Golden was very fun.
Spectacular.
Yeah, I remember I was flying back. It was Thanksgiving. I was flying back from Thanksgiving, and I remember I was in the airport, and I was sorry if this is TMI, but I was going to the bathroom, and I couldn't even turn it off to do that. It was in the middle of that fight, and I was like, I can't stop for even 2 minutes. Cannot do it. It was so intense. So it was fun.
This would be my last fight.
Yeah, it was a good time.
So with Shy, as we wrap her up, not too much to say other than the fact that it's really nice that she's a good person compared to everybody else. Where would you rate her? In your character favorites, would you rate her closer to on the bottom or more middle, or is she up there? Or you just don't talk about her.
Are we talking about women characters or all characters?
I'm gonna go with women characters just because of our theme.
I'm trying. So I don't think I've ever actually tried to rank them in my head. So I'm just going to go off the top of my head. Obviously, Mons is number 1, Savine 2, probably Finry 3.
Ooh.
And then only because I feel a connection to Carlot. Carlot goes 4, then Shy, then Artie. And it's funny because I think the last episode we did, I loved Artie and was talking her up. And she was my superstar, loved her to death. After rereading the first trilogy, I couldn't stand her. So Artie's all the way at the bottom. I think Shy probably falls around the 4 or 5 mark.
If Artie's all the way at the bottom, then Pharaoh's not even existent because she forgot about her. See? She hates animals.
My God.
She hates dogs.
Did it again?
Stop it. No. First of all, I love dogs. I'm a big fan of dogs. They're the best.
Do you have any, though?
She did.
I fostered.
I know.
Yeah, I'm not very good at it.
So
really wasn't. I'm a good dog aunt.
There's this trait that has been thrown around in literature. I don't know if it's been inside any of your guys' algorithms, but it's somebody called a manic pixie dream girl.
Yes.
Oh God, 500 Days of Summer ass motherfucker. Oh
yeah.
God.
And I feel as though one reason why Rika is so popular is because for some reason she fits in that category and slowly comes out of it. And then by the end of Wisdom of Crowds, a lot of people don't like her because she beats Calder. But also I feel like it's because she's basically grown up. And I don't know why, but it seems like people are like, God, Rika shouldn't have won. Things like that.
No.
No.
I think the problem with Rika is that she's such a different person than she was at the beginning. By the end, when somebody changes that much, all the people who liked her at the beginning are not going to like her at the end. It's just the way that her transformation went is not going to appeal to the people who liked Rika at the beginning. I liked Rika at the beginning. And after everything sort of went down, especially after the scene with Cowrib, I sort of, her whole attitude completely, she felt like a completely different person. And so I think there were probably a lot of people who fell for Rika, whether it's because she was this manic pixie dream girl or not. that just weren't going to connect with who Rika became in the end. So I'm not surprised to hear that a lot of people probably fell off. I thought she was fascinating, like probably had one of the most interesting arcs, because the whole time after the scene with Cowrab, and maybe I didn't read this correctly, so sorry if this is coming off a little bit dense, but after the scene with Cowrab, I didn't know which eye she had given up. And over the course, and I don't know if it was meant to be that way or if it was explicitly stated and I missed that, but I didn't know. And so throughout the next 2 books, I kept thinking, like, where are Rika's visions? She's having no visions. She's giving up the long eye. She's saying that she's had all these visions, but she hasn't. We haven't seen any of them. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, nope, they're still happening. Joe's intentionally not showing them to you. And so,
which is great.
Which is great, right? And so I ended up sort of, I thought maybe in the Trouble with Peace, we'd figure it out. Beginning of Wisdom Crowds, we'd figure it out, and we didn't. So I kind of fell into this place of like, okay, she did give up the long eye. I can now safely assume she's lying. She's full of shit. Like she's somebody that I can now choose to dislike and feel good about it. And then Joe throws that wrench in at the end, which completely turned everything on its head. And so, I think that honestly, like, to me, was more of like, wow, he's such a good writer that he held off for so long before like he let me feel safe in choosing to dislike her. And then it ended up not being the case at all. So anyway, circling back, because I've gone off in a tangent here, but to your point about the manic pixie dream girl sort of trope, I think it appeals to a lot of people, that she sort of comes in as this, like, sort of quirky, like she's lanky
I'm
and
not like
skinny
other girls, and I am a tomboy at the same time.
Yeah. Right? And then she's got this like badass friend in Isern who I love to death. Like, Isern's amazing. So
make of your Quimba stone.
Make of your Quimba stone, right? So I think falling into that trope, I would imagine it was intentional on Joe's part to make a certain set of people fall in love with her and then take that away. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, no. I think that's a good answer. I was gonna say that I like the fact that Joe hides it as well, because even at the end, that she's also still lying, because the long eye just doesn't come for her whenever she wants it to, at least not for her. So she a lot of it she was making up, which made it feel really good whenever she succeeded, because you weren't sure.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey?
Well, I was just gonna comment on A, because of your question, Harrison. Now I'm imagining Rika to be a one-eyed Zoe Deschanel. B, I don't. She lied about having visions, but she didn't have any visions. Remember, like she did give her the long eye, but apparently it's like you can't hold the long eye back, man.
Yeah,
and she doesn't get to choose when or not to have a vision. That's why that whole vision with Ayus, Buyus, whatever.
Yeah.
Like it just she's just taking a stroll in the park, and then it just bam right in her mind's eye. She doesn't really get to choose to see it. So that was my only point.
What I didn't know was whether or not she was having visions and Joe was choosing not to show them to us.
No, she said it. She said it to Shivers or somebody. She's like, I haven't had a vision.
You're right. Yeah. She did. She confided in him. She's like, I actually haven't seen anything, and then she did.
Yeah. So she's talking all that smack.
Wait, can we take a brief interlude to discuss Shivers and how amazing he is?
Oh yeah, because you get to watch his whole story. Yeah,
I know. Yeah. No, oh my god, like I think he might be one of my favorite characters. No, not my favorite, but one of top 3 in the whole series. He's great.
Is the main character in all these books.
He is. He's and I love that he just, like, I'm not going to say healed. He didn't heal, but he found, he loved Rika, and he found that
he found something to live for.
He found something to live for. Great. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, he rediscovered his humanity.
Yeah.
Which is so rare inside of this series. It's really nice that occurs.
And a him of all people, the guy that had his eye burned out and lost everything, and
He
then
deserved it.
suddenly, yeah, he deserves it.
He doesn't deserve it because he was still an a-hole, but
I mean, does anyone in this
but-
series deserve happiness? Probably
Shy does.
not.
Damn it, Shy does. You already forgot.
She already.
Shy does.
At least you remember Shy's name.
There was, by the way, while I was reading A Little Hatred, I had a very brief moment where I thought Judge might be Ro, and that ended up getting blasted out of me at some point because it was made very clear that she wasn't. But for a while, I was like, no way, like no chance. But or maybe it wasn't A Little Hatred show. Whenever Judge like got real big, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
But it wasn't.
A good amount of people thought the same thing too.
I thought it was made clear. I can't remember exactly when or what the situation was, but there was a moment where it was made very clear that it was not her.
She talked about her backstory to Broad and to Leo in Wisdom of Crowds. And she basically says some wacky stuff like she grew up in the far country, but that's basically all she gives off. And that's why people thought, well...
It was something about, did she say her age or something?
Oh, it was her age, yeah. She's like 30-something.
Yeah, it just, the timelines didn't work out. But for a while...
When she was given her sort of backstories, I always thought that was sort of like a Joker thing, like in The Dark Knight, where he keeps giving these backstories, and they're all wrong. They're all not actually true.
Yep.
A lot of people don't like how Judge is in there like that, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, I could have done without Judge.
Judge was like, she's a villain. Like there, and I love villains. I love a good villain. Judge did not feel like a good villain to me. She was very one note. Like she was just crazy, and there was no. I always want to get to know. I'm like, what's their reason for doing what they do, whether it's right or not. Like, what is their reasoning? She just wanted to burn the world down. But then even with someone like, while we're talking about the Dark Knight, comparing her to someone like the Joker, because I think there's probably a lot of similarities there. We know the Joker's backstory. We know why he does what he does. Judge didn't really have that.
Do we know what he does? Why he does what he does?
To George's
I'm
not gonna claim to be like the world's biggest fucking Batman fan. I'm not, but like we know the Joker he was bullied, he was, went through depression and was insecure and like all of that, and sort of grew up to be this evil, insane person. I don't think we necessarily had that with Judge. Did we?
I mean, she did give a couple of different backstories, like one with being like the one who settles the disputes with the whores down by the docks and things like that, and essentially becomes like their pimp. And then with the dragon people and being like ostracized by them, like it's just like a whole mishmash of different things, isn't it? And it all could speak to like an actual true motivation.
That's true. Maybe I just didn't want to give her that space because by that point I was already so like, it's like this one was crazy. Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed her like chaos just because there is no other character in the series like that. And so I was expecting more and everyone's expecting more. And then when it turns out she really is just crazy, it made me actually absolutely terrified because unlike everybody else, everyone else can be understood in the series. She is not.
She can't, like she could snap and do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was, I thought she was very unique as far as villains go in First Law, like to have someone who's just so unhinged.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not a typical sort of modus operandi when it comes to villains, is it?
It was interesting.
Judge's POV when. Come on, Joe, give it to us.
It's just like it doesn't make any sense.
It's just a kaleidoscope of words.
Yeah, it's all fucking jarbled together. And inside of you open the book, it just says Judge on the chapter, and you look down and it's fucking math equations. You're like, what the fuck is going on?
Or finger paintings.
Yeah, finger painting.
Or it could be. Have you guys ever read the book called Filth?
No.
So the whole book is structured where the story is literally split in two down the page with the inner monologue running down the middle.
Ooh.
That's super cool.
It could be like that. I think that would be quite interesting.
That would be interesting to see Judge's inner monologue.
Yeah, that's kind of whack to think about writing that way too.
It would just be like burn, 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 burn the whole way down. Like nothing else. Great change.
All right, with that, George, you want to shoot us your best meme of the week over here?
Yeah, we've got a repeat person for the meme of the week, which is Your Words Won't Save You on Reddit, and this is one of the most intricate things that I've ever seen on House of the Meme Maker. It's just essentially a really long advert, and it's in the style of like a drug, and it's the seed, and it's so funny. I'm not gonna read the whole thing out, but
it's hilarious. Go look at it. It's one of the best ones.
Lacking stamina, don't have that old magic, missing the ability to slaughter by the thousands. You need seed.
It's just a picture of an old decrepit man turned into, and then the next slide, he's all young again.
So yeah, go and check that out. That's really funny. Thank you very much. Your words won't save you. That obviously a lot of work went into that. So
thank you for that, George. Appreciate it. Harrison, did you have another question for Stephanie?
Of course, I have them all. Somebody who is even, I feel, is even more not talked about like at all is Vic, and Vic is very interesting because she does not ever go down the path that you expect her to go down. You keep expecting her to do something different, and then right as you finally assume, oh yeah, she's like locked, or she's just stuck in the loop of pain, she actually breaks out of it by the end. You're like, oh, well, that's surprising.
I feel like my comments here are going to betray exactly how I feel about Vic, which is that I don't have a whole lot to say. And I hate that. I hate that because actually Vic, and I think I even messaged you guys like while I was reading, I was like, I don't really get Vic. But reading it, I'm like, Vic is actually like, we're talking about good people, like good-hearted people. I'm like, Vic actually, like, she has a good heart. Does she always act on it? No, but like, you know, she's somebody that you want to root for. And yet, as I was reading, I felt like it just wasn't a storyline that interested me until the end. And then I was like, oh shit, like, okay, go Vic. I feel like I would have a lot more to say about Vic after a reread. And I don't want to sit here and like, you know, because I do tend to talk in circles. I don't want to just like say a lot of words about Vic when I don't feel like I really have a whole lot to say, because I think I did discount her and that wasn't fair for me to discount her. And I think the second time around, I would give her a lot more of a chance, kind of like how the second time around with Artie, I was like, wait a second, no. I feel like it would be the opposite with Vic, where I'd be like, okay, actually, this is someone I really do want to pay attention to and focus on. I was just so much more worried about everything else that was going on, you know? So, yeah, Vic was cool. She deserved more than what I gave her. That's really what I have to say there.
I think Vic's one of those characters that should be a lot more interesting than she is.
Mm-hmm.
Like you really, like you say, you really do want to root for her, but you just kind of, it's very difficult.
Well, I think a lot
especially
of the
when she admits to being a sociopath. That's a little bit, you know.
Well,
go ahead.
I just was gonna say, I find it really interesting in the Age of Madness. The characters seem to be, whereas we don't have as much of a connection to them, I think everybody agrees, as you do in the first trilogy. You're also kind of prepared for them to be in a certain way, which is kind of what we talked about with Tamal Boar. But I think another big factor is the fact that everybody in Age of Madness is literally changing the path of history, except for two characters. Unlike in the original trilogy, whenever none of the main characters really change much of anything, Vic and Broad don't do jack shit other than live in the situations that they have. And they also, ironically, the two people that start off on the lowest place as well. So
Broad stays there.
And Broad fucking stays there. Fucking
boring ass. Fucking.
Honestly, fair.
I understand Broad stuff, but it's interesting because Vic it's written, I feel like, as an original trilogy character, and she's treated as such. But the world is now different, and the way the books are written are now different. So she doesn't actually fit into that mold as much anymore, which makes her less interesting, because not only is she's not changing the world like everybody else is at the same time. She's just kind of living through it, which seemed to have been fine for everybody before.
It's really interesting because I also felt like as I was reading it, it's close but a little bit different. I felt like as I was reading Age of Madness, Vic's storyline most closely aligns with somebody from the original trilogy. And so I kept comparing Vic to Glocta. And the whole time I was like, Glocta's just more interesting. But I do kind of like the point that you've made about like Vic's just living in a different world when she probably could have done a lot more in the first trilogy. Yeah, it's tough. I'm interested. I want to have this conversation with you guys again after I do my reread of Age of Madness, which I will do at some point, because I think I'll just understand Vic better by that point. She was a very interesting character who did a lot of things, and we got a really unique perspective on what was going on in the world through her. But you're talking about a character who, and like we're comparing her right to Orso and to Savine and Leo and Rika, and they all have these huge, like larger than life personalities, and Vic doesn't, and that makes it kind of hard to like. And that's part of her character, and that's honestly part of what makes her so great, because I can be. I mean, you guys, we've met in person by now, like I'm pretty extroverted, but I go through these like these moments where I'm like, actually, I think there's a lot more to gain here by being silent and just listening and taking things in. And that's what Vic does. And I have a lot of admiration for people who are like that. And so I look at like, why did I treat Vic this way mentally and not give her the space that she needed? When actually she deserved a lot more. So I would want to revisit that conversation. I want to do a reread of her and appreciate her a little more.
I like it. That's understandable.
Yeah.
Appreciate Vic, fans. Appreciate Vic. All right.
Appreciate Vic. Yeah, I will for sure the next time.
George, you got a question?
Yeah, I was wondering about this one because this might be a bit inappropriate, but
we cut it out.
Oh, is this? I know what this is.
So I think in an effort to sort of engender, no pun intended, like good feelings for making up for his mistakes, Joe's like puts a lot of detail into certain descriptions, especially of what he calls the menses.
Right.
And I'm thinking, is he just making this shit up, or is it actually like
it's different for everybody, right?
Just like go and ask his wife, or
So okay. First of all, I appreciate that you're asking the question. We're on an episode about women, talking to a woman, and that's honestly something that I think is glossed over in literature in general, especially fantasy, but in general, is that women have this thing that we're dealing with every single month that never seems to be mentioned in media, period. And so I really appreciated that he included it and that you're including it here and now. But it becomes a difficult question to answer because every woman's experience with it is so different. I am candidly one of the blessed ones. I have a mildly annoying first day, and then the next 2 to 3 days, I don't really notice it, and then it's gone. But I have friends who have it for a week and a half, 2 weeks, who I have friends who have gone to the hospital for their cramps before. I have friends who have cysts, not to give too much information, but like they're dealing with really incredible pain every single month. And so there's such a spectrum of what people experience on this. And so I don't think it's, in one sense, I don't think it's fair for me to judge Savine's experience with it, because her experience is hers. But I do think that like there was like that scene, she's in the cart with Hildy, and she's like, every time the carriage bumps, she like feels a little, a jolt. And that I think is accurate, because when you're dealing with those bad days, it's always there in the back of your mind, even if it's not the worst of the worst. Like me on my first day, it's really not that bad, right? But it's definitely like, I'll be on calls and I'll be like, oh shit, that was annoying, So it's just, it
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes, it was accurate. So like diving deep into this, it was accurate for her. It wasn't unbelievable, Like I read it and I was like, yeah, this is Savine's experience with it. It's not my experience, but it's hers, and that's valid. Whatever research Joe did, it came across believable.
Okay. I find that interesting as well, like what you said. It's literally never brought up anywhere.
Yeah.
In fiction, unless you're talking about some ultra specific sort of, But
sure,
anyway.
There's a plot-based reason for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is interesting to see that, and I actually really do appreciate that from Joe. Getting down to the nitty gritty, the real stuff.
Yeah, I like that as well, because I grew up with a lot of sisters, and it was a typical conversation at least once a month. So it was nice that was put in there, because like you guys said, it's always forgotten about, and that is a part of half of the population's lives. So every single week, once a month. So
it was nice to see it included. And it also, I think, kind of lines up a lot with, kind of like we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, how much more fleshed out the women are in Age of Madness, and the standalones too, compared to the first trilogy. So it was nice that it was not just like, let's flesh out their character. It was also, let's actually flesh out what it means to be a woman, and like that experience that we have in our lives. So it was cool to see it included.
Good.
Jeffrey, any comments
about the Menzies?
The Menzies.
I want to say we here at Circle of the World podcast, we believe in inclusivity.
We support Menzies.
We support the Menzies. But ladies, come on, your stuff, has the word men in it. Like, stop taking so many things from us, please. Come on. Anyway.
Damn it, Jeffrey.
Anyway. So quick question. This character hasn't been really talked about so far. At least I don't think so. What do you think about Wonderful?
I love her.
Go ahead. Rattle it off. Come on.
I love Wonderful from the moment she appeared on page. That's my bitch. Adored her. I thought she was great. Obviously, I wish she was a little more fleshed out. I wish she had a more major role than she did, but I was very happy with what she got. And the fact is, her character served a purpose. She was in the role that she was. And yeah, I mean, she was great. Every moment she appeared, I was very happy with her. And I also want to say it was just such a testament to Joe's writing of Clover, that even when he killed her, I didn't hate Clover for it. It was just like, that's what it was fucked up. I was like, that was fucking wrong. You shouldn't have done that. But
that's what she gets for letting Dao die. Sorry.
It was really bad. But she was like, I mean, she was just like loyal.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was that one part. But no, she was great. I really liked her. And I don't know if I should say this, but I will anyway. I have a weird thing about like women and hair. I really like, I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm very attached to hair. And so generally when I meet a woman character who shaves her head, I'm not attracted to that. This had nothing to do, like, Wonderful. It never even crossed my mind. I was like, I don't care. I'm into her. She's awesome. She's perfect. Everything she does is right.
She was ahead of her time, if you think about it, because don't all the ladies in Age of Madness, like, the style is to shave your head and then like put a wig on.
Wonderful was ahead of the time.
Do you understand the fact she was ahead of her time? But do you understand the crisis I had when I learned that Savine actually did that? I was like, I can't. It really hurt me. But yeah, I guess, it was part of the time. But she was ahead of her time with the style. She was great. Loved Wonderful. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, she's such a unique like situation. She still feels not like a Northman. She's like more logical or more
Right.
measured than most of the Northmen. I believe because she is a woman or surrounded by all these men, she has to be more on her guard and more like aware. But at the same time, all the Northmen are like, "Oh, that's wonderful. Don't fuck with her. She'll fucking kill you, bro."
Yeah.
But this also seems like a good time to point out one of the struggles I had with Age of Madness. And it's a very light struggle. Didn't impact my enjoyment of the series, but Wonderful. Yes, she had to be more intelligent, be more cunning in that way because she's a woman in a world of men. But the men she was surrounded by were also very competent. Like, I love Kernan Graw. I thought he was amazing. And Clover has, intelligence in his own way as well. One of the struggles that I had with Age of Madness was that I felt like, I don't want to say Joe overcompensated for his lack of women with agency in the first trilogy, but I did feel like we sort of had this world where the women were so ruthless and smart, and the men were almost like, they were almost like oafs, like they and right, and so it felt like, the men were almost the props, which is not, to me, that's not what equality is, right? It's not making women better than men, it's making them equal. And so I would have loved to see more like really highly competent men in that generation. And I felt like the one we really got was Glocta, who was a carryover from the first trilogy. So that was one of the big challenges I had with Age of Madness, was actually wanting to see more men with agency and intelligence.
I see what you're saying, and I think Jeff has had similar complaints, and I think a lot of people have, especially that's why Calder, the whole Calder situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's part
Calder's
of that.
Another holdover, right?
But it's interesting, right? Because on that same token, we have Orso, who is somehow like, there's a reason he's everyone's favorite, but it's because he's so good. He's such a good character. We all know. Everybody who's listening to this one already knows. Orso's just fantastic. And yeah, a lot of the women do have a lot of prevalence in it, but I don't know. I felt like it was not overcompensated. Because
Harrison's a simp.
The women inside of those positions, they also had, and for some of the women thought that that's what they wanted was more, and they learned as well that there's a lot of problems that come with that. So Rika wanted revenge and all the extra shit, and then she had to learn how to be better than just being having brute force. She couldn't be like what she wanted to be. She had to be better. And Savine was forced to, because of her predicaments, maybe not become a better person, but she did not play it out like how men do. I thought it was fine because no men roles were actually replaced. It was women did all of their things in the way that I feel a woman would typically handle a lot of those situations, rather than it just being like, I big man, I strong, I win. And there was a lot of It wasn't just like the women are in charge now. It was more like this woman is in charge because she is like this now.
But that's honestly like that. I felt like that was one of the messages of Age of Madness, was like, it doesn't matter how strong a woman is, she still has to operate from the background. And Finri is a perfect example of that. Finri was fantastic, right? I mean, we came in and she's basically a general, and she's she's making the right decisions. Is she out right now? I mean, everyone's still lost to Monza, but like, bad bitch. So, but Finri is, she's doing a good job, and she's still replaced by her son because he's a man. And that wasn't subtle, right? That message was explicitly sent. And so, it's still, you get these women operating from the background. And to your point about Orso, Orso, we all love Orso. He's absolutely incredible, and he does have such a good heart. But, when I talk about like the women being vicious and the men being a little bit bumbling, if Orso hadn't been bumbling, right? If he hadn't been lazy and he had wanted to be a little bit more involved in what was going on, then he wouldn't have ended up where he did. But he did. So, if Orso had a little more strength, I think the story, and not strength, that's probably the wrong word. If Orso had a little bit more ambition, then I think the story would have turned out very differently for him.
Yeah. Good point. Well, we're going to go on to the community interaction segment.
Community interaction.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of our other segments that we do. So basically, Harrison, he pisses people off on Reddit. That's basically what happens.
I love doing that.
Or we get pissed off by people on Reddit.
Yeah, we get pissed off by people on Reddit. So this one
Take it away, Harrison.
Best place to live. I've done a couple of these now on the First Law subreddit. I done the North, and then I did the Union, and then I did Styria. The options were Talins, Sapani, Osprey, Viscerine, Westport, or some other place in Styria. That way no one freaks out. Like, why didn't you put this one down?
I voted for Westport.
Yeah, see, a lot of people did, and that was second place.
I don't think it counts, though. It's not a real answer because Westport isn't.
Well, it is, though, because that's the thing, is it doesn't have the same laws that the Union does. It's literally on Styrian soil, and it's kind of the crossroads of the world, right? So, I don't think it really counts in the Union. It can kind of count in both. That's the whole point of it. So I didn't do it last time, so I figured I'd do it this time.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that won was fucking Sapani.
That was hilarious. Like, come on.
I love this answer as well, Sapani, because I'm a degenerate.
Everyone wants to go to Cardati's.
Oh, that's what it is.
What I've understood.
The whole Sapani chapter was talking about how miserable Sapani was through like the lens of Sapani's amazing, but actually it's not. So I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, it is pretty funny because I'm like, Sapani is supposed to be the worst place to live in Styria, and everybody in the First subreddit's like, yeah, but I would live there. I can handle it. Look, every building has mold on it. Everybody is fucking wet. You can't see anything. It's just fucking shit. I think Osprey would do a little bit better because Osprey is renowned to be like a fucking nice place. It lives up in the mountains, fucking wine.
Yeah.
Old like fortress city. It's fucking beautiful. But no.
But no whorehouses there. Not Cardati's.
If it don't got Cardati's, I'm not going.
Can I make a quick shout out to the scene between Shivers and Gorst and the heroes? Where Gorst asks them, like, have you ever been... I was messaging you guys in the group chat. I was like, oh my god, guys, they met. Oh my god. Gorst is asking if you ever been to Cardati's, blah, blah, and you guys were like, it's happening, and then it went nowhere, and I was like, that was so well done, and that's another reason why, like, the heroes is my favorite. Like, that disappointment, I've never loved feeling so disappointed before. that was such a great moment. I really liked it, so props. And thanks to you guys for keeping me on my toes and making me think something was going to happen when it clearly did not.
Yeah. We're like, oh my god, yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Get ready! Let's go.
Oh,
well, does anybody have anything else they want to say?
I'm good. Are you guys good?
Jeff's going to bed.
I'm going to lay down for a little bit for sure.
I'm all good.
You're good?
Yeah.
Steph, do you want to talk about anything?
No, I think I'm all right.
I think you're all right?
Thank you guys. Yeah. Thanks for having me back. This was fun.
That's a show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot to us.
Join us next week as we do The New Man, Feeding Time, and So Much in Common.
And make sure you follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Reddit, and we have a website. It's circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or whatever you use. And please make sure to rate this podcast as it helps to spread our reach. Thank you all again for listening.
Make of your quim a stone.